Welcome, students, faculty, and staff. Convocation is our first assembly as a community, albeit a virtual one, to mark the official start of the academic year. I am Interim President Dave Prue. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to and back to RISD. What a year we've had, and what a year we are about to begin. For the first time since March of 2020, RISD has a full campus with over 2,500 students and close to 1,400 faculty and staff. Of this, we are excited to welcome more than 700 new community members, students, faculty, staff, and administrators, and among them an amazing cohort of first-year students from our most competitive pool of applicants in school history. Over 40% of our incoming students are U.S. citizens of color, and the class as a whole comes from 32 states and 14 countries and speaks 29 languages. 9 of them speak more than 4 languages. We are pleased to welcome 8 new faculty members as part of our ambitious cluster hire we launched last year to bring to campus educators and practitioners with expertise in the areas of race and decolonization. To say we are ready to have everyone safely back at campus is an understatement. We have re-densified our classrooms, shops, and studios, removed much of the 30 miles of social distancing tape, and thousands of signs we had in place last year. We reinstalled furniture, materials, and equipment from 27 tractor trailers that we had stored off campus. And with 95% community vaccination, a well-oiled surveillance testing system in place, indoor masking, and digitally enhanced classes, I am confident we are once again able to navigate this endless pandemic safely again this fall. But I urge you not to forget that each one of you play a major role in how we fight the virus. Each one of us has the responsibility for each one of us. It is that simple. I have great confidence in this community that we will all fight to protect the health and safety of one another just as we did over this past year. That said, don't be afraid to fully immerse yourself in the RISD experience. It is vital to your learning. Take the proper precautions, safety first, but go to crits and events, roam the library and museum, attend lectures, and safely explore the city of Providence if you can. Make new connections and develop and expand the ones that you currently have. You're only here for a short period of time. Time passes by very quickly. Don't look back and wish you had taken more advantage of the amazing amount of resources and opportunities that RISD has to offer. We cannot know what the future holds, but one thing we do know is that at RISD, our collective community will be deeply entrenched in not only navigating new ways of learning and making, but also finding creative solutions to the world's most complex challenges, such as COVID-19. I cannot wait to see what the outcome for each of you will be as we work together over this next year. I wish you all a great start of the semester and a warm welcome to the Rhode Island School of Design. It is now my great pleasure to introduce the Interim Director of the RISD Museum, Sarah Gans-Blythe.
Good morning. It's a sincere pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of the RISD Museum. I'm in the Metcalf Auditorium, which is located within the RISD Museum. And just a few floors above me, there is a really modest paint box. And this paint box dates from ancient Egypt, about 1300 BCE. And it includes a hollow well for water and a place for a brush. It also has 7 pigments made from ore, plants, and rocks. There is a cake of yellow ochre, Egyptian blue, which is the first synthetic color. There is white, dark red, light red, and 2 charcoal blacks. And this paint box, which is modest in size and portable, allows us to ask questions about artistic practice, color symbolism, chemical compounds, and the environment. So the fact that this modest paint box is located in the center of a gallery reflects what the RISD Museum is about. In fact, it is not an art museum. We like to say it's an artist museum. It's a place not for the passive consumption of rote histories and art, but rather, like the artist studio, it is a place where objects made from 1300 BCE to today are catalysts for experimentation and the generation of new ideas. So in this sense, the museum is not an inevitability. It is a malleable framework from which new narratives, ways of learning, and relationships can grow. And so my welcome doesn't come with simply that, but also an invitation to make the RISD Museum, to use it as your studio, your classroom, a place of work, and to join us in critically confronting the past, thinking about the complexity and ambiguity of the present, and also asking how we can more authentically address our communities going forward. And so welcome, and it is now my pleasure to welcome Provost Ken Clement. Thank you.
Thank you, Interim Director Gunsblythe, and welcome students, welcome parents, faculty, staff, and friends of RISD. Like last year, I have to address you wearing a face covering, which at least for the time being is required indoors on the RISD campus. But my message to you is that thanks to the hard work of the collective community of RISD, this semester promises to be as close to normal as health safety will allow. Whereas last year we de-densified, this year we are repopulating. We have spent the summer months bringing out of temporary storage endless tractor-trailer loads of studio furniture, shop equipment, tools, new materials, raw materials, exquisite objects, antiques of unknown vintage, and prototypes still in the making. We are ready for you to start your studies tomorrow. The shops and studios and classrooms are once again set up for an intense on-campus work ethic. You will still find traces of the color tape that Dave mentioned that was set up last year to keep you socially distanced, but we are in fact able to go back to familiar work patterns, happily free of the one constraint that affected so much of our habits and practices, namely physical distancing. Bodies moving in space are back. The late and very great urban theorist Michael Sorkin argued that just these two elements, bodies in motion and proximity, are indispensable conditions for democratic politics. Both philosophically and literally, the democratic project flourishes when students are in motion and intersecting. The kind of motion envisioned here is not that of a linear freeway, but rather a circulation system full of redundancy with multiple pathways, optional routes, and individualized itineraries. This conception of circulation flies in the face of the logic of traffic engineering. The goal is not to get from point A to point B with maximum efficiency, but rather to stage many interruptions and chance encounters between destination nodes. Traffic, in Sorkin's definition, is a civic accelerant, a necessary condition for contact between members of a community. But movement of ideas, of bodies, goods, and services is pointless if it does not involve others. Indeed, structured interactions with others is a precondition to any notion of freedom. One cannot be free alone, wrote Sorkin. Density, proximity to others, is as important as motion. Proximity sets the stage for interactions, not only those predictable interactions that you can control, that you can schedule and repeat at will, not only those interactions that are necessary for sustenance, but I'm thinking here about those wonderful, ad hoc, accidental, unintended, totally surprising collisions with the unknown, the kind that can shake your consciousness and change your life. Complex, dense, messy, stimulating places of circuitous motion and close proximity, in Sorkin's mind, great cities. These are the natural habitat for robust democratic societies. I invite you to think of RISD as just this kind of place. No, we are not a great city. We are not really even a townlet. We are just barely a neighborhood. But we are certainly a complex, dense, messy, stimulating, unpredictable place, full of informal pathways, unofficial opportunities, unexpected interruptions, and unscheduled pit stops. RISD is a place in which you can, no, must, bump into one another and mash your ideas together, collide and collaborate in a shared creative zone of your own making. Mingle your thoughts and aspirations and practices together into a common agenda, and find your own voice by addressing others before, during, and after class. At RISD, you can experiment and fail, and let others be stimulated by your boldness so that they too can experiment and fail, and in turn stimulate you. Of course, you will learn in all kinds of structured settings from some of the best faculty in any art and design school in the world. RISD faculty teach with an intensity and a creativity that is unparalleled. But one of the great assets of RISD, one that we all missed very much last year, is RISD's informal curriculum fueled by bodies in space. And this is why we are particularly pleased to be able to remove the physical distancing requirement that governed our movements last year, and why I am so delighted to be able to welcome a full house of over 2,500 students and over 1,400 faculty and staff back to the physical campus. This is also why I want to state as emphatically as I can how important you are to the success of this semester. We need everyone to take very good care of themselves. We need everyone to take very good care of one another. Remember, we are a highly vaccinated community, but RISD is not a bubble. We have rigorous testing, but we need you to self-monitor. We have very good air filtration in all of our buildings, but we need you to wear a face covering whenever you are indoors. And most importantly, remember to be kind and gentle when you bump into your fellow classmate. And now, in the spirit of bumping shoulders and minds in physical and intellectual space, I want to introduce RISD's academic leadership team and invite them on stage for a brief discussion about the upcoming term. They are Vice President and Associate Provost Matthew Shinoda, who is leading RISD's social equity and inclusion efforts, Dean Damian White, leader of RISD's Liberal Arts Division, Dean Joanne Stryker, who leads the Division of Experimental and Foundation Studies, which encompasses all the first-year studio programs, Interim Dean Brooks Hagan, Dean of Fine Arts, and Dean Sherry Fultoner, Dean of the Division of Architecture and Design. Welcome, colleagues. It's wonderful to see you this morning. Matthew, if I may start with you. Last year, RISD conducted its first cluster hire in the area of race and decoloniality. Faculty have been working throughout the year on a number of efforts on that topic. Can you summarize for the audience some of the highlights of the efforts of last year and what we can expect this year?
Sure. I think, as you've pointed out, one of the pinnacles was bringing in a group of new faculty who are introducing new knowledge to our curriculum across various disciplines. And we'll continue those efforts for the next several years in our hiring practices. But I think it's important to note, Kent, that over the last several years, RISD has been at work on multiple initiatives in expanding our curriculum. We've hired new faculty over the course of the last several years who have both enhanced and brought new knowledge to our curriculum, and many of our existing faculty have been committed to transforming and shaping their own teaching practices and their own bodies of knowledge, and we've provided multiple resources for the faculty to continue to develop that work. There's also a group of faculty working right now on a series of projects, one being the ability to create pathways around social equity and inclusion for students so that through their time at RISD, they're guaranteed the ability to take courses that focus specifically on these issues and that reflect some of the things that our students have asked for in their curricular pathways so that they have the ability to touch on these things before graduation. And then, of course, we've worked across the various divisions on public programming, bringing in different scholars, artists, people who are doing this work in various capacities across their disciplines and have exposed those to both our faculty and students. So it's been a really exciting few years of continuing to build on this and working across the divisions with my colleagues here in doing so.
Great. Excited, a lot of initiatives underway. Damien, maybe I can piggyback on that. You lead the Liberal Arts College. The required first-year liberal arts courses are under your auspices. What can students expect? What's happening that's new, particularly maybe in the Fine Arts Survey, in relationship to some of the topics that Matthew just talked about?
Sure. So thanks, Ken. We're very excited to be unfolding another year of Old, New, Borrowed and Blue, a range of pedagogic interventions that are really cutting edge and experimental, as well as covering classic bases. Our students will be engaging with our art history survey in the fall called Global Modernisms. Global Modernisms is a fantastic six-continent review of the modern and contemporary art experience, really stretching from about 1850 to 1980, 1990. It thinks about this moment, this critical moment in creative endeavour, not from a simple linear story of the world emanating out from Euro-America and all following as reactions to that, but rather a complicated set of histories and explosions and reactions to modernism that are occurring across six continents, that are sometimes in conflict, sometimes in dialogue, sometimes borrowing, sometimes involved in exploitative or colonial relations. But this is a kaleidoscopic mapping of that vitally important period in art history. And then in the second semester, I'm really excited to say that students will continue this survey of art and design, focused particularly on a critical history of architecture and design. This will go from the ancients to the present day. Again, the focus is a six-continent survey, which tells a range of different histories across, a vast period of human time, and looks at, connections, collisions, problems, isolations, moments of encounter, and moments of tension and crisis. So it's a really exciting two-semester survey. Students are going to further encounter a fantastic set of literature classes and an underpinning set of classes in history, philosophy, and social science, and that will underpin and scaffold their studio practice and be in dialogue with their studio practice. And we're just very, very excited about welcoming these students to these new pedagogic adventures that we're going to have together.
Then if I can just ask a mechanical question, not to in any way undervalue the enormous reframing of the canon that your faculty are undertaking, and I'd love to talk more about that because I see a textbook project in the making here. But on a purely mechanical level, what can the students expect in terms of course delivery? How's that going to work?
In terms of course delivery, students will receive panoramic, fantastic lectures delivered online, but they will also have intimate in-person experiences in their tutorial groups where they will have the opportunity to discuss and reflect on that material in the art history survey. And then in all other contexts, liberal arts is returning to a face-to-face experience. So for our freshman students, all their classes will continue in a face-to-face fashion, and as is the fashion of RISD, we provide in that context small classes where people have ample opportunity to really dialogue with each other in groups of around 15 to 20 at max. So it's going to be an intimate experience. You're not going to be doing the mega lecture experience where you're just dealing with TAs that many other people have in other colleges. You'll be dealing with real professors, excited professors interested in your thoughts and ideas and interested in working with our studio colleagues to really augment that first year experience so that it's just a complete and utter blast and sets you up to take your major. So that's what we're aiming for, and that's what we're going to deliver.
Great. Thank you. So that's a segue to you, Joanne. So let me build on Damien's explanations. The influence of the global moment cannot go unmarked, I think, in the first year studio program. What have your faculty been talking about? What can the students expect this coming year in the studios?
Okay, thanks, Ken. Well, I think one of the great things about our curriculum is that we can evolve it, and it's evolved every year. And so in response to world events, to SCI initiatives here at RISD, and due to some of our new hires in EFS for our studio faculty, the curriculum has really changed, and it's faculty are really very conscientious about embracing ideas that honestly we didn't bring in so much in earlier years, but and I think the students have a great influence on that, and we always encourage, and we don't really need to encourage students to speak up because they do anyway. That's what we value with our students, but whatever they do in liberal arts is going to influence how they see studio, and vice versa. Whatever they're doing in studio will influence how they approach the liberal arts and how they question the faculty in liberal arts. So it's really a very organic relationship that we have with the liberal arts courses. I'll talk about something very specific though here in response to what Matthew said and what Damien said. One of the new cluster hires that we're sharing with art history, or THAD, Theory of History of Art and Design, and the studio is Chris Roberts. And we're very excited about this as a pilot because Chris has his research and his scholarship goes deeply into Providence and the history of slave trade and buildings and just Rhode Island and Providence and RISD specifically as a place. And I think he's going to be working with some of our studio faculty to bring this content, which I think is so important for students to understand where RISD is, where RISD has been all these years, and also where they are now and will be for the next 4 or 5 years. So that's just a more specific example that we're really very excited about, that's come about through the work that Matthew's done, and then Damien and I have worked together to collaborate and to help encourage faculty to collaborate in that kind of way.
Yeah. It's probably worth pointing out that Chris is an example of a hire that crossed multiple divisions, atypical for RISD.
Oh yes, very atypical.
As it never happened before. Brooks, similar kind of question, but maybe from the fine arts perspective. I saw the shows, the year-end shows last year, extraordinary work that your students and faculty were able to produce under difficult circumstances. I hesitate to say lessons learned, but maybe observations made last year about ways of working, changes in ways of working, or maybe even things that didn't go well last year that you're hoping to be able to rectify this year. Can you give us a summary from the fine arts perspective?
Sure. Thanks, Ken. Well, there are a number of observations. I guess I would say, starting strictly from a pragmatic standpoint, the integration of new technologies into the classroom was an enormous step that we cannot underestimate. Whether it's Trello boards or video lectures, or I think most significantly inviting visiting critics from around the world to partake in discussions, albeit Zoom discussions, but still having that outside voice from really a very different perspective to participate in critique or lecture, that sort of thing. This was a huge development, I think, for the fine arts faculty. In terms of facilities, by nature we were de-densified, and that was a very complex and difficult task for all of us. But I think it brought out some extraordinary ways of working among the faculty and students. But more importantly, a community-mindedness and a sense of kindness and caring that we were all in this pandemic situation together, and we all wished to make our work to the best of our abilities despite the circumstances. And so a supportiveness amongst the community that was really something to behold. But I think above all, given the complexity of the questions and the uncertainty of the time, many fine artists simply turned to their work for a sense of possibility. And I think that in the work that we saw in the shows in the spring and how resolved it was an example of creativity in the face of really extraordinary challenges. And I think it's a testament probably to just the determination of fine artists and their drive, really, and their interest in making new things no matter what. So I think we'll continue to see those activities, but hopefully, with more integration and more togetherness now. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Sherry, maybe similar kind of question. I saw many of the reviews last year, a lot of them online, and over the summer, some really fantastic work out of the studios. Very hybridized, hard to say whether it was in person, hybrid, online, because it was all of the above. What did you learn last year? What did you see last year? What are you carrying over into this year? What can the students expect?
Well, I think you used the right word, hybridized. There's, I think, going to be even a stronger embrace of the hybrid learning and presentation environment. Brooks already mentioned one type of presentation technology. In my division, Miro boards became a very widely used, and I think next year will be even more widely used tool. Not just because, last year it was meeting a need while we were, so many students were remote and people couldn't travel. But I think what everybody discovered is that it's a great tool for sharing, for collaborating with people in the same building you're with, but also people from far away. It actually assists students to craft presentations of their work that are very, very much part and parcel of what a designer does after they leave our walls. And it also became a way, as Brooks mentioned, of inviting people in that we wouldn't normally be able to bring to RISD, perhaps just because of their own commitments or where they live. And so we had an extremely broad group of critics participate last year, and it was very much enjoyed on both sides. We also, by using technology, students were able to plan and mount some very successful symposia, again, engaging scholars and other designers from a very broad range that we were very excited about and hope to continue this year. The other hybrid piece that we're really excited to be back in the shops, repopulated and at a density that we're more familiar with than last year. But at the same time, what we've learned, and I give the technicians and faculty enormous credit for this, many of them develop sets of demonstration videos for skills, for introduction to tools, and I think that is beginning to kind of show us a way to provide broader access to certain making facilities to prepare students with the basics that they need to know before they come in for an orientation to the shop. And then finally, I think many of the departments who had not previously used films discovered them as a really powerful tool for crafting a narrative about your work, about what is motivating it, the message that you're trying to tell in the work. The apparel department was a very good example of this, as they had to shift from an in-person runway show of collections. What they found in the crafting of individual films was a way that each student could dive deeper into the questions of identity, of sustainability, of a critique of the industry and the changes that it's undergoing were really captured in those films. And then we were able to share them with the community of Providence in a new way because they were projected outdoors on the side of buildings. So we took what had previously been a far less accessible event into something that became a community celebration of the work. So I think all of those are examples of things we'll be doing more of and learning to even do them better.
Great. I caught, I think, all 5 of the presentations of the runway show in public space. It was really fantastic. So let me wrap up. I know I'm speaking on behalf of all of you in saying the following. The summer was spent rebuilding the campus, and the technicians and the staff and the department heads were particularly committed to that project. And so I want to thank that group of people, and of course the faculty as a whole, for an extraordinary effort to prepare the campus for tomorrow. I'm feeling very optimistic. Can I say the same from you? Thumbs up? Okay. Have a good semester. Stay safe. Stay well. My door is always open. I think the dean's doors are also always open. We very much look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye-bye.